to do first is kind of talk about these 5 steps, give you a framework, and then we're going to go back to the first step of core values and work through an exercise related to that. So the first step, obviously, of the 5-step process is your core values. Your core values are really what are foundational to who you are. They're your inner, your core, as it says, your values, what you believe in firmly, what you believe in strongly. They're what make you who you are. They are, when you make decisions, you oftentimes lean on your core values. Sometimes you don't realize that. Sometimes you're very thoughtful about it. And again, we're going to go through an exercise in a little bit to actually identify your core values. So you're more aware. You have that self-awareness about what your core values are and what's important to you so that you can rely on them more and more often. And sometimes, more importantly, without even thinking about it. They just become part of who you are and what you are. So that's the first step of the 5-step roadmap. The second step is what I call your balance disc, your balance disc. Now, those of you that maybe go to the gym or exercise or in your weight room, whatever the case might be, there's a round piece of plywood or a round board. It's only about that thick, and on the bottom is a half a ball. Sometimes it's a rubber ball. Sometimes people put a softball underneath there if you want to make your own. But it's a very wobbly thing. And when I think of life and balance and work, it's not as easy as this teeter-totter that sometimes people talk about, this life-work balance. I wish it was that simple, right? Trying to balance these two things. But really what the balance disc about is there are so many factors in your life that you have to balance. Excuse me. That you have to balance. You have to balance exercise and nutrition. You have to balance friendships. You have to balance family. If you work, you have to balance your work inside of that. You have to balance fun, play, and creativity. So there are 9 different elements that you have to balance on this balance disc. And what they use it for in the weight room is when you stand on it, or a fitness center, it really helps your ankles and your lower body, helps adjust and strengthen those, particularly if you had some kind of an ankle injury. I'm probably making you a little nauseous with this going on, like you're going to get seasick, but that's how the balance disc works. So the process we go through is it's a 9-step process where you rate where you are on each of these 9 different elements, and then figure out where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses, who or what can you do or rely on to help you grow in your strengths and to some degree in your weaknesses. And then how can we stretch that process out over a number of weeks or months so you can really focus and work on those things and develop your skills. For example, exercise and nutrition is a simple one. If you need to watch your exercise and nutrition, we all do, but we have to adjust that. And I've been trying to get into a regular exercise routine. Hopefully you do some kind of exercise on a regular basis, whether it's just walking on a treadmill, going out for a brisk walk in the neighborhood, a bicycle ride. Some of you probably are in sports, athletics, dance, cheerleading. Maybe even an instrument helps you with your lung and your wind ability, a lot of different ways. And then making sure you're eating the right foods and the right amount of those foods. So you kind of assess all this as one of those 9 pieces of that pie on that balance disc as you look around that circle. And at the center of the balance disc, again, is your core values. What are those things that are most important to you? So we talk about our core values. We talk about the balance disc. The third step in the 5-step roadmap is your inner circle. These are the people that are closest to you, that are really making a difference in the decisions you make in your life. It could very well at this stage in your life be your family, might not be. Could be a coach, could be a musical director, a drama director, could be people that you work with if you're working right now, could be other family members, could be people you've met through maybe some different camps or experiences you've had with school groups or even outside of school groups. But it's those 5 people that mean probably the most to you in your life. And again, in some cases it might not be your family. Who is influencing you the most? I had an experience when I was working, and I was fortunate enough to be promoted to a vice president position where I was working, and I had to hire my replacement. And I brought to the president, my boss, the list of candidates, and basically had it down to 2 different people. And she asked me a number of questions about the people. I talked a little bit about who they were, their strengths and weaknesses. One of the gentlemen was very much like me. He was Caucasian. He was tall, very interested in sports. I mean, hair color was inside and outside. We were very similar. I was very comfortable with him. Another one of the candidates was a Hispanic woman, Dora Zuniga, and Dora was very strong and bold and forceful in a good way, but very challenging to me in my perspective. And I was leaning towards Art. Art was the other gentleman who was involved. And she challenged me in a good way about my decision and what I was thinking. And we went back and forth and talked some more, and finally came down to the decision of hiring Dora, because she could fill in where my weaknesses were. She brought skills to our organization where I had weaknesses. So as I, at that time, didn't know about my balance disc, but as I looked at my balance disc, my weaknesses were things that she could fill in on, and together we made a stronger team. Also did that with other team members. So we had an incredible team, an incredible run in that particular organization, because I looked at my inner circle. Who were the people that were going to influence me at work, and how could they help me? How could they help us achieve more as an organization? How could I achieve more as an individual and grow and learn? And actually, just about 2 years ago, I got back with Dora when I was down speaking in Tampa, Florida, and we had a great 3-hour lunch. We didn't eat the whole time, but had a great lunch and reminisced about what we both learned from those experiences, because she knew that there was some uncomfortableness there, and we grew into being comfortable, and just a great experience. And now I'm actually going on. I'm a certified diversity, equity, and inclusion instructor. Proud of that fact, and I work with individuals and companies in that particular topic. So she really had a lot to do with it. And I've had many other experiences, which I won't be able to share with you today, just because of the time we'll have together. So again, back to the 5 steps. We start with our core values. What are those foundational things that we work on, and we're working from the inside out? The balance disc. What are those 9 elements I need to work on? Where are my strengths and weaknesses? And then who's in my inner circle to help me with those particular weaknesses? The 4th element of the 5-step roadmap is your comfort zone. And that's a tough thing, right? Because it's always great to be in our comfort zone, but we have to work and fight through fear, expand and grow our comfort zone, and get into learning and get into growth. And that's why you're in this call. That's why you're leaders, and that's why you'll be even better leaders, because you're going to fight through those fears. We all fail. Matter of fact, this morning I had a great conversation with an individual. All we talked about for an hour was fail and fear and rejection, and how we get through that. And really it comes back down to our core values. What are our strengths? Who do we rely on? So one thing that happened to me to stretch my comfort zone is I'm not a very technological person, right? Social media was a little scary, and still is a little scary to me. Well, I was taking a course on how to speak from AJ. AJ's a great guy, still a mentor of mine. And AJ challenged us all to do one of 2 things. We either had to do a 5-minute stand-up comedy skit at a comedy club, or we had to go on Facebook Live and do a 5-minute comedy skit. Well, where I live in the middle of Wisconsin, we don't have a whole lot of comedy clubs. So I was going to have to go on Facebook Live. Well, I barely knew Facebook, and I had never been on Facebook Live before. And again, I'm not technologically advanced, so I went at the place I worked at, I went into our big conference room, pulled a table out, put a chair on top of the table, put my laptop on top of the chair. Then I had a corded earplugs with the little microphone, and used that for my speaker. Behind me, there was a TV, so I had my website up there, which is my first name and my last name.com. How creative is that, right? ToddKuckkahn.com. By the way, you can go there if you want. But anyway, so I start recording it, and I tell the story about taking my mother shopping. And my mother she's 92 and elderly. She's living by herself with my father, independent living. And but it's just kind of comical, because I remember when I was a kid and she'd take me shopping. Now it was my turn to take her shopping. And we had some great stories about that. So I was sharing the stories, and as you can tell, I tend to use my arms a lot. Well, I bumped the cord, turned the laptop, so I thought, okay, I'll turn it back and I'll keep going. Well, then I noticed in the lower left-hand corner down here, there were some people typing in messages, which I didn't know that was part of Facebook Live. How stupid was I? And they were saying, Todd, we can't hear you, we can't hear you. So I'm like, I didn't know what to do, right? So I just kept on going, right? And then what I did was I went back into that post, and in the comment section, I kind of put in the punchline of the story. But, you know, it got me out of my comfort zone. And now I do Facebook Live on a regular basis to help me build my business in leadership development and corporate communication and those sorts of things. So kind of a funny story to talk about the comfort zone. But there are many other things that, you know, you've done things already in your life that have pushed you out of your comfort zone. You learn to walk, or you learn to do a certain skill, right? And you failed at it to start with, but you kept working on it, and you fought through that fear, and then you started learning and really started growing. And you're going to have so many more opportunities to do that down the road as well. So back to the 5 steps, the first step being your core values, then the balance disc, inner circle, comfort zone. The last step as we move from the inside out is DISC, D-I-S-C, capital letters. DISC is an assessment that you take. It's about a 15-minute assessment. It gives you a 30-page report on details on how to be a better communicator, how you are motivated. Most importantly, how to work with other personality styles. So I'm an I personality style. I'm very, I'm people-oriented. I'm very, you can see I'm, very outgoing, those sorts of things. Those are what an I is. But not everybody's like that. So I have to learn what other people's styles are so I can meet them where they're at, right? So a D style is very direct, driven, dominant. So I have to be careful with how I interact with people who are D styles to get the best out of our relationship. It's not taking advantage. It's not changing who I am, but it's understanding what their style is and how you work with them. So that's a whole other concept that we won't have time to get through, but working from the inside out.